right, I'm going to just try to call it to order this way. This meeting is called to order. Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Town of Austen's Town Board meeting and work session for Tuesday, August 8th. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, justice for all. Everybody to stand up and you started ahead of me. Okay.
Okay, Councilmember Jeffrey,
Present.
Councilmember Wilshire,
Present.
Councilmember Feldman,
Present.
and Supervisor Levenberg.
Here.
We have this evening a public hearing in the matter of local law number 6 of 2017, extending a moratorium on construction within the town of Austin.
And just to be clear, we have had a moratorium in place for some time. We are asking to extend it to make sure that all of the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed, and we're doing everything legally, because that's what we need to do as a municipality. So to that end, we need to extend the moratorium to make sure that everything is in order before we hopefully will be able to close our public hearing on September 5th and adopt our new zoning laws, and then we will end the moratorium.
Is there anyone that's come to address the board? If so, kindly state your name and your residential address. Not seeing anyone, may I have a motion to close this public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Right. And if the rest of the board is in agreement, we would like to pass a resolution approving this local law later in the meeting in order to prevent a lapse of the moratorium. I want to thank everyone for their patience with us throughout this process, and hopefully we will be able to move on with this extra cushion in place to get everything accomplished.
We'll move on to announcements.
So I'd like to begin by sharing some exciting news that we received earlier today. The Village of Austin announced this morning that they have selected a new village manager who will be starting after the Labor Day weekend on Tuesday, September 5th. Ms. Deborah or Debbie McDonald comes to Austin by way of Poughkeepsie, where she serves as city administrator, and before that she served as city manager for Fairborn, Ohio. We look forward to welcoming Ms. McDonald into the Austin community, and we especially want to thank interim village manager Paul Frioli for his service over the past year plus. We are grateful for everything that he has helped our community achieve during his time in this role, and we're very glad to know that he won't be going too far. He will still be working for the town as our town engineer, and we will be hearing from him a little bit later this evening. On Thursday, August 10th, that's this Thursday, Senator David Carlucci and the Westchester Hispanic Coalition will host a Know Your Rights Immigration Forum at the Joseph Caputo Center starting at 6 p.m. RSVP by calling the Senator's Austin office at 914-941-2041. And I'm sure that Councilwoman Jeffrey will add a little bit to that afterwards if she wants to. Westchester Collaborative Theater will begin performances of Barefoot in the Box, their August monologue showcase, this coming weekend, with shows starting on Friday, August 11th at 8 p.m., Saturday, August 12th at 2 p.m. and 8 p.m., and Sunday, August 13th, with a performance at 3 p.m., which will be followed with a special Q&A with the playwrights and director. Tickets are available at wctheater.org. Hudson River Expeditions still has several kayak tours available this summer, so why not get out on the water? The next set of tours are coming up on Friday, August 11th, with one group sailing at 4 p.m. and another at 6:30 p.m. If you're interested, visit HudsonRiverExpeditions.com to learn more about these great tours and purchase your tickets for this and other dates through September. Also coming up, the Austin Historic Cemeteries Conservancy will be hosting a grave cleaning at Dale Cemetery on Saturday, August 19th, between 9 a.m. and 12 noon. No experience is required, just a willingness to learn and maybe get a little dirty. Snacks and water will be provided. On Monday, August 21st, we will have a chance to view the solar eclipse right here in Austin. Visit the Austin Public Library to view the partial phases beginning at 1:25 p.m. The Friends of the Austin Public Library will provide special glasses to help you view the eclipse safely and in style. Are you interested in learning to knit, or are you a practiced expert looking to make some new friends while honing your craft? Join the Osney Knitting Club, led by Virginia Benedict, which meets on Mondays at the Senior Center between 9 a.m. and 11:30 a.m., or at Maple House on Wednesdays between 12 p.m. and 4 p.m., and Thursdays from 7 to 9 p.m. If you're interested or have questions, please call Virginia at 917-494-0563, or you can email her at virginia.benedict@gmail.com. I want to also share a phone call that I got earlier today from town resident Carmelina Iorio, who wanted to express her thanks to the town for how beautiful Dale Cemetery has been looking, and we have been receiving many of these calls and compliments recently. Special thanks to our superintendent Pete Connolly and his crew, who worked tirelessly to keep our most important parcels looking great. So it's my pleasure to share that compliment with you from just today. And are there any other announcements? There was the only one other one was about the tour of Sparta. Remember, from Alan Stahl? No.
That's this Sunday at 1 o'clock.
This Sunday at 1 o'clock, and that's hosted by the Jug Tavern. So I don't know if it's jugtavern.com, but if you want to look it up online, I'm sure that you can get more information to make a reservation for this Sunday at 1 p.m. Okay. And that's it for announcements. Oh, you do have one. Okay.
Yeah. This is way out, but I'm going to say it now, and then we'll say it as we get closer, and we'll have flyers and information. But aside from the senator having this Thursday is having his, which you already said, hit the Immigration Know Your Rights, and it's for anybody who wants any information about how the immigration system is kind of set up now. People who have visas and sometimes they want to travel, and you know what might happen, what documentation should you have. It can run all kinds of things, so it's open to everybody and all kinds of information that might be requested. But in September, the senator is going to have his annual senior fair, and that always takes place in the community center as well. We already have the date set for September 14th, which is a Thursday. It's between 10 o'clock and 1 o'clock, and we have a ton of vendors who come with all kinds of information for people who are aging, have family members who are aging, plan on aging, which I hope we all do. And just, you know, whether it be housing, medicine or medical, nursing services. There's WCC has a program for people to take classes. So it runs the gamut of any kind of information for and about seniors. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. And I also wanted to
Does the comptroller come, by the way?
so the comptroller also, the representative from the comptroller's office will come and see if you have unclaimed funds. Somebody from the attorney general's office generally will come also. We have speaking. We haven't figured out what the speakers are yet, but yeah, it's a full day, and it's really good. Usually the town, the village, and the police department all come, and OVAC. Sometimes there are free flu shots we try to get, so there's a lot. And I just wanted to say thank you to the highway department. Yes. You know, we noticed that our street signs are aging in some portions of our town. And, you know, it costs money and it costs time, and our highway department does a lot. You know, they have to pick up leaves, or they have to plow, or they have to do all kinds of things, or sewer. And so the signs kind of fall down on the priority list. And they recently changed some signs that were old. I mean, they looked really old. And now, excuse me, now it looks pretty updated. Thank you, right? Pretty updated and very nice for the town.
Water?
So I just wanted to shout out the Town of Ossining Highway Department.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, we're very grateful for all the hard work that our highway department does every day for our residents.
Are there any other announcements? Not seeing, we'll go to liaison reports.
Fire department. Want to talk about parade?
Fire department had a
Want to talk about
parade.
awesome-
Yeah.
Amazing parade. Go ahead.
Fire department had their annual parade this past
Friday.
Friday. Thank you. I was there. But and, you know, we're always lucky to have pretty good weather. Generally, I think it rained once in a while. I know, knock on wood. They looked fabulous. They do a fabulous job. And we're really happy that all of the other companies, so many of them, come and participate. I'm not sure I know who won. Nyack. So congratulations to Nyack, our friends across the river, for winning, I guess, what, overall? Overall. So it's always a good time. We should always participate. I think it's one of the things that makes us so special.
Absolutely.
As somebody who grew up in the city, we don't do those kinds of things really, little town things. So it's magical, and it's great for all kids, all adults, and everybody to participate in.
Great. And we also had a great concert Saturday night. The
Ah,
Riscos
yes, we did.
performed, and I know, and I think DJ Johnny G was also there. And I think that a good time was had by all. So thank you
Time was had by
for all those people who came and participated, and to the Riscos.
Move on to departmental reports. Do we have any?
You have no? Nope.
Okay, we'll move on to public comments on agenda items. Is there anyone here to address the board on any of the agenda items?
These are just the agenda items from our regular meeting portion.
Okay, we'll move on to approval of our resolutions. Resolve the town board of the town of Austin hereby approves the July 25th, 2017 minutes of the regular meeting as presented.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So we have a very small voucher detail this run, including the cost for the new gutters on the Cedar Lane and Gerlach pavilions, and the beautiful new paving up at the Ryder Park Pavilion.
You're ahead.
Am I ahead? Oh,
You're
sorry,
ahead.
I skipped that. I'm on voucher. I thought you said voucher detail. Okay, sorry about that. But that is true, and we'll be doing that in a little while. I'm not gonna say that again, so you'll know that about our voucher detail in the very near future. Okay, so all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention?
Resolve the town board of the town of Austin hereby approves the August 1st, 2017 minutes of the special meeting as presented.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Okay, resolve that the town board of the town of Austin hereby approves the voucher detail report dated August 8th, 2017, the amount of $93,889.42.
Do you have a motion?
So moved.
And you heard me mention? Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? And how do we do with our tax resolutions? Are we
We've got it worked out.
fantastic? Okay.
Tax search for Guido Federici versus the Town of Austin. Whereas proceedings pursuant to Article 7 of the Real Property Tax Law of the State of New York were instituted by Guido Federici against the Town of Austin to review the tax assessments made on petitioner's property located at Cypress Lane, Town of Austin, and designated on the tax assessment map of the Town of Austin as Section 98.05-2-55 for tax assessment year 2016, which proceedings are now pending in the Supreme Court of the State of New York, County of Westchester, under index number 51766, 2017, and whereas the above petitioner has agreed to a compromise in settlement of such proceedings, subject to the approval of the town board correcting and reducing the assessed valuation of its real property and improvements as follows. Assessment year 2016, tax ID number 98.05-2-56, original assessed value $158,600, reduction of $123,600. Final assessed value, $35,000. Resolved subject to the approval of the Supreme Court, Westchester County, that the assessor is authorized and directed to make the changes and corrections to the individual unit assessment on the tax assessment roll of the town of Ossining, which will be ordered pursuant to the consent judgment to be entered in accordance with the terms of this settlement. And the receiver of taxes is authorized and directed to process and pay the refund of town of Ossining taxes estimated to be $91.85, which will be ordered pursuant to said consent judgment.
Do I have a motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention?
Clinton Terrace LP versus Town of Ossining. Whereas proceedings pursuant to Article 7 of the Real Property Tax Law of the State of New York were instituted by Clinton Terrace LP against the Town of Ossining to review the tax assessments made on petitioner's property located at 70 Croton Avenue, Town of Ossining, and designated on the tax assessment map of the Town of Ossining as Section 89.19-2-18 for tax assessment years 2014 through 2016, which proceedings are now pending in the Supreme Court of the State of New York, County of Westchester, under index numbers 669-62-14, 674-21-15, and 644-43-16. And whereas the above petitioner has agreed to a compromise and settlement of such proceedings, subject to the approval of the town board, correcting and reducing the assessed valuation of its real property and improvements as follows. Clinton Terrace LP, 70 Croton Avenue, Ossining, New York, Section 89.19-2-18, tax assessment year 2014 and 2014, tax ID number 89.19-2-18, the original assessed value $458,635, reduction of $57,010, final assessed value $401,625. 2015, 89.19-2-18, $458,635, reduction of $74,435, for a final assessed value of $384,200. 2016, ID number 89.19-2-18, a $9,665,500, a reduction of $2,065,500 for a final assessed value of $7,600. Resolved subject to the approval of the Supreme Court, Westchester County, that the assessor is authorized and directed to make the changes and corrections to the individual unit assessment on the tax assessment roll of the town of Ossining, which will be ordered pursuant to consent judgment to be entered in accordance with the terms of this settlement. And the receiver of taxes is authorized and directed to process and pay the refund of town of Ossining taxes estimated to be $4,122.16, which will be ordered pursuant to said consent judgment.
Do we have a motion?
So,
I just want to thank our assessor's office as well as our town prosecutor for all the work that they do collectively to negotiate on behalf of the town to get to reach a settlement with the various properties that we're discussing tonight. For anybody who is following along with a lot of numbers and a lot of words on these, I just want to point out that the reason the value skipped up so much from 2015 to 2016 is not because the property went up whatever 1,000%, but because we have, we're now at full value. And I'm sure most of you already know that, but just in case anybody's trying to figure that out. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention?
MDY Realty Corp. versus Town of Ossining. Whereas proceedings pursuant to Article 7 of the Real Property Tax Law of the State of New York were instituted by MDY Realty Corp. Against the Town of Ossining to review the tax assessments made on petitioner's property located at 2729 Spring Street, Town of Ossining, and designated on the tax assessment map of the Town of Ossining as Section 89.19-4-87, and on petitioner's property located at 2325 Spring Street, Town of Ossining, and designated on the tax assessment map of the Town of Ossining as Section 2016-4-88 for tax assessment year 2016, which proceedings are now pending in the Supreme Court of the State of New York, County of Westchester, under index number 647-44-16, and whereas the above petitioner has agreed to a compromise in settlement of such proceedings, subject to the approval of the town board, correcting and reducing the assessed valuation of its real property and improvements as follows. MDY Realty Corp., 2729 Spring Street, Austin, New York, Section 89.19-4-87, assessment year 2016, 89.19-4-87, original assessed value $818,400, reduction of $160,160 for a final assessed value of $658,240. MDY Realty 2325 Spring Street, Austin, New York, Section 89.19-4-88, assessment year 2016, tax ID number 89.19-4-88, original assessed value $673,700, a reduction of $131,940, final assessed value $541,760. Resolved that the town council is hereby authorized and directed to procure and execute any documents necessary to effectuate such settlement, and it is further resolved, subject to the approval of the Supreme Court, Westchester County, that the assessor is authorized and directed to make the changes and corrections to the individual unit assessment on the tax assessment roll of the town of Ossining, which will be ordered pursuant to the consent judgment to be entered in accordance with the terms of this settlement, and the receiver of taxes is authorized and directed to process and pay the refund of town of Ossining taxes estimated to be $278.65, which will be ordered pursuant to said consent judgment.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Just came out.
Louis Bataille versus Town of Ossining. Whereas proceedings pursuant to Article 7 of the Real Property Tax Law of the State of New York were instituted by Louis Bataille against the Town of Ossining to review the tax assessments made on petitioner's property located at 30 North Malcolm Street, Town of Ossining, and designated on the tax assessment map of the Town of Ossining as Section 89.19-1-29.2 for the assessment year 2016, which proceedings are now pending in the Supreme Court of the State of New York, County of Westchester, under index numbers 538-61-16, and whereas the above petition has agreed to a compromise in settlement of such proceedings, subject to the approval of the town board, correcting and reducing the assessed valuation of its real property improvements as follows. Louis Bataille, 30 North Malcolm Street, Austin, New York, Section 89.19-1-29.2 for assessment year 2016, tax ID number of 89.19-1-29.2, the original assessed value is $613,900, a reduction of $105,900 for a final assessed value of $508,000. Resolved, subject to the approval of the Supreme Court, Westchester County, that the assessor is authorized and directed to make the changes and corrections to the individual unit assessment on the tax assessment roll of the town of Ossining, which will be ordered pursuant to the consent judgment to be entered in accordance with the terms of this settlement. And the receiver of taxes is authorized and directed to process and pay the refund of town of Ossining taxes estimated to be $101.02, which will be ordered pursuant to said consent judgment.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
I'm sorry, can I ask for a friendly amendment? It's actually going to be for all 5 of these, but I guess probably just for this one, and the 2 going forward would be proper. There are 2 references in each resolution to the town council, being town council, COUNCIL, which would be you folks. That should actually be council to the town, COUNSEL,
Okay.
in reference to an attorney.
And that's in both?
That is in all
All-
5,
all of
2
them.
places in
Yes,
each.
all of them. Okay.
Okay, so we had the vote. Hold on.
Do we need to readopt those for a spelling? Error?
I think we can just treat it as a typo.
Okay. Thanks.
Monte Calf Corporation versus Town of Austin. Whereas proceedings pursuant to Article 7 of the Real Property Tax Law of the State of New York were instituted by Monte Calf Corp. Against the Town of Austin to review the tax assessments made on petitioner's property located at 6668 Croton Avenue, Town of Austin, and designated on the tax assessment map of the Town of Austin as Section 89.19-2-21 for the tax assessment years 2008 to 2016, which proceedings are now pending in the Supreme Court of the State of New York, County of Westchester, under index numbers 232-4208, 231-4709, 259-4110, 158-0311, 674-9612, 669-2313, 672-9714, 672-9115, and 650-7516. And whereas the above petitioner has agreed to a compromise and settlement of such proceedings, subject to the approval of the town board, correcting and reducing the assessed valuation of its real property and improvements as follows. Okay.
I think since they're all the same tax ID number, maybe you don't need to read the tax ID number, you could just say,
No, I was just looking to
for
see
each year?
the assessed values, but they are different. Okay. 2008, $382,000, reduction of $42,020. Final assessed value of $339,980. 2009, $382,000, $72,580, $309,420. 2010, $382,000, $38,200 for a final assessment of $343,800. 2011, $382,000 for a reduction of $7,640. Final assessed value of $374,360. 2012, $382,000, reduction of $382,000, that's zero. 13 and 14 are exactly the same, and 15, and then 2016, the original assessed value is $7,253,300, with a reduction of $453,300, which brings the final assessed value to $6,800,000. Resolved, subject to the approval of the Supreme Court, Westchester County, that the assessor is authorized and directed to make the changes and corrections to the individual unit assessment on the tax assessment roll of the town of Ossining, which will be ordered pursuant to the consent judgment to be entered in accordance with the terms of this settlement. And the receiver of taxes is authorized and directed to process and pay the refund of town of Ossining taxes estimated to be $2,576.87, which will be ordered pursuant to said consent judgment.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
That
Thanks.
completes your certioraries. Resolve the town board of the town of Ossining hereby authorizes the supervisor to enter into an agreement with CGI Communications, Inc. of Rochester, New York for the continuation of the no-cost community video program for the town of Ossining as per the proposal dated July 5th, 2017.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
So several years back, then Town Supervisor Catherine Borgia had introduced CGI's program to the town, which allows us to produce short videos to promote local tourism at no cost to the town. We are excited to continue this program and freshen up our videos, which were last updated under Supervisor Sue Donnelly. Question? Okay. Do I have all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Resolve the town board of the town of Ossining hereby authorizes the supervisor to enter into an agreement with Auctions International of East Aurora, New York, for the provision of surplus auction services for the town of Ossining with terms and conditions to remain in effect for a period of 2 years from the date of signing, and be it further resolved that this agreement may be canceled upon request of the town of Ossining at any time during this 2-year period.
Do I have a motion? So as many of you know, we have purchased several new trucks and pieces of equipment over this past year. We have other vehicles and equipment that have reached the end of their useful life. and will be shortly headed for the auction block. Before we prepare a list to declare surplus, we need to have a new contract in place with the auction company we have been using for many years in order to acknowledge our agreement with the terms. I understand that this company has been easy to work with and has gotten some great prices for our surplus material in the past, so I look forward to working with them again this fall and getting some money back for our well-used and, in the past, well-loved equipment. Questions, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention.
Whereas the town board of the town of Ossining has been considering the adoption of a proposed local law entitled Amendment to Extend Interim Development Moratorium within the unincorporated town of Ossining, which means to impose a temporary moratorium on development within the town of Ossining to allow for a planning and zoning analysis consistent with the town's comprehensive plan. And whereas in accordance with New York State law, and after having provided all requisite notice thereunder, the town board conducted a public hearing on introductory local law number 6, 2017, entitled Amendment to Extend Interim Development Moratorium within the unincorporated town of Ossining on August the 8th, 2016, at 7:30 p.m. at the Birdsall Fagan Police Court Facility, 8688 Spring Street, Ossining, New York, during which the public had the opportunity to be heard on such proposed local law, and whereas the proposed local law is a Type 2 action and does not require environmental review, now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Ossining hereby adopts local law number 5, 2017, entitled Amendment to Extend Interim Development Moratorium within the unincorporated town of Ossining, with such adoption to take effect as set forth in said local law and as otherwise required by law. And it is further resolved that the town board directs said local law number 5 of 2017 to be filed and/or distributed in accordance with applicable law.
Do I have a motion? So as previously discussed, this will extend our moratorium through October 7th, although we hope to be done a bit before then. Thanks again to everyone for their feedback on our zoning law process. The public hearing on that local law will be reopened on September 5th. Not going to say
Okay, Madam Supervisor, this is a roll call vote.
okey-doke.
Okay, Councilperson DeTore?
Aye.
Yea or nay?
Councilperson Jeffrey?
Oh, yay. or
Okay, yeah,
yay or
whatever.
nay
Aye,
or
yeah, that's
aye.
fine.
Yes, yes.
Councilperson Wilshire?
Yes.
Councilperson Feldman?
Yes,
And Supervisor Levenberg?
Aye.
Thank
I
you.
wasn't.
Oh, yeah. Yes. You missed Councilwoman Jeffrey.
Didn't I call it?
Missed
Okay. Councilmember
Now,
Jeffrey?
now I'm gonna say no just because you missed me. Aye.
Whereas the town board of the town of Ossining occasionally auctions properties with delinquent taxes in accordance with the requirements and procedures set forth in state and local law. And was the town board passed a resolution on May 23rd, 2017, authorizing the sale of several properties, including 15 Meadowbrook Drive, tax ID number 89.07-1-60, and whereas the town board held a duly noticed auction on July 25th at 2017 at 1 p.m. at 16 Croton Avenue, and whereas the high bidder at $340,000 has declined to move forward with the purchase at the $340,000 price, and the second high bidder at $335,000 has also declined to move forward with the purchase at the $335,000 price, and whereas it is the recommendation of the receiver of taxes that in the interest of fairness and equity to both the bidders and the town, and due to the unusual nature of this situation, that the town board authorizes the receiver of taxes move forward with a procedure whereby the three highest bidders are permitted to submit a sealed bid for the property as outlined in the updated conditions of sale document attached hereto, and with a minimum bid of $300,000. Therefore, it be resolved that the town board does hereby authorize the receiver of taxes to commence with notification of the three highest bidders as prescribed in the conditions of sale, with all the bid submissions due to the town tax receiver's office at 16 Croton Avenue by Friday, August the 11th at 4:30 p.m., and be it further resolved that after receipt and review of the bids of all the qualified bidders, the receiver of taxes is hereby authorized to accept the bid of the highest qualified bidder over $300,000, and notify all of the qualified bidders of the outcome.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
Okay, so the resolution pretty much speaks for itself. We are heading for a closing of September 12th for this property, and we hope to have some good news by close of business this Friday.
I do have a question though.
Okay,
So this bid had gone up to like 340,000 or some such number.
correct, yes.
And this, other people had bid over 300,000? That's what I
There
got
were a
lost.
total of 3 bidders that had bid 300,000 or above.
But how much were the tax? It had gone up. I mean,
Don't-
the
The minimum was
50 something.
54,000.
Right,
The
Right,
minimum
so
that's what the minimum was.
So I guess my question is, why did we set the bar at?
Because that was the third highest. Less
Okay.
than the second and first highest bidder.
Is there a contingency plan in case this doesn't work out?
We will, well, I mean, that's an option.
I don't think we want
We can
to, though.
auction it again. There's, you know,
Well,
there,
that's the question. Can you
Mm-hmm.
auction?
You can auction it again, they can auction it again, you can just adopt a new procedure.
Okay.
You can engage in a private sale.
Okay,
It
so
would
there
just
are
be subject
options
to
in
approval.
case.
Right.
Okay.
But there was one
Oh,
issue that came up,
right,
excuse me, after this resolution was put together, the supervisor pointed out the potential for a tie. So if it's amenable to the board, we were kind of brainstorming ways to handle this. And so we thought that one way that may substantially reduce that risk was to have it so that the bid can't be a whole number. So you'd have to have some sort of sense in there, and it would just, substantially reduce the likelihood of someone just picking, two people just picking,
Exactly.
ballpark whole numbers. There's still always the risk, in which case the board would have to decide how they wanted to handle it. Or the board could just decide how they want to handle it now.
I'd rather figure out something rather than
Right.
be on the spot and have to
so
figure.
I think, I mean, there was one suggestion that Ms. Hatch had, which was that there is a random
Random number generator.
number generator that is used in online auctions sometimes in situations of ties. And, it's kind of like flipping a coin, but you have the option of flipping a coin 3 ways. If you have a 3-way tie, for example, and it's basically, because there's really no other good way that would be, in our opinion, that would be fair if 2 of the 3 bidders were to bid the same, or even 3 of the 3, all 3 bidders were to submit the exact same bid. So, what we could do is put in the sense so that it'd be less likely that we would have a tie, and then, or, not a whole number, and then, and say, in the event of a tie, we would use a random number generator to randomly select of the two tied bidders.
Okay,
that
so
okay?
can I just go over what the
Yeah.
amendments would be to the resolution then?
Well,
Let's
I
just
think
find out the
let's-
question
let's-
first.
Oh, I apologize.
Okay, let's go
That's
ahead.
okay. So the top 3 highest bidders, do those include the 2 that declined it?
Yes,
Okay. They have an option to bid again.
correct.
Okay. Okay.
Why-
But they
you wanna know why?
declined it, and
Because-
it's gonna be over 300, so what's?
Still gonna, because we believe that it'll still be in the range that they would, be able to afford.
Okay.
Well,
That's why.
can you
And
break
we
a
believe that
tie
the
by
value-
having a documentation that you have the ability to get the financing? I mean,
Did we find the assessed value also on this property was 78?
is that possible?
Well, you don't want both parties kind of running to the bank and then them getting it within a few hours of each other, and you risk, 2 people getting financing and there's only one property.
How often are people able to run to a bank and within a few hours get financing? Because I'd like to meet those people.
But I mean, if you have 2 people who are pursuing financing on one property, I
Right.
mean, I would imagine the bank
Right.
would have substantial concerns about that.
Right. Okay. Okay, so
All right,
back
so you
to
want,
the
now do you want to go
original?
back to the language?
If everyone's
Yes.
comfortable
Okay.
with, okay. So in the third to last paragraph, the final whereas clause, that the town board authorizes the receiver of taxes move forward with a procedure whereby the 3 highest bidders are permitted to submit a sealed bid for the property as outlined in the updated conditions of sale document attached here too, and with a minimum bid of $300,000, and then at the end of that, where the bid cannot be a whole number. And then we can just put an example in parentheses using dollars and cents so that it's clear. And then after the last be it further resolved, another be it further resolved, in the event of a tie, the winning bid will be determined using a random number generator app or program.
Program, yeah. Okay, so, all those in favor with, as amended?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Whereas on August 1st, 2017, the Town Board of the Town of Ossining passed a budget adjustment for capital project 2014-5190, Spray Park recirculation, and whereas upon further review of the project, there was a calculation error in the resolution passed by the board. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Ossining authorizes a corrected budget adjustment for capital project 2014-5190 entitled Spray Park recirculation of $241,197 for project implementation, increasing the project to $461,197 to be funded by a transfer from general fund balance, which will replace the budget adjustment for the capital project authorized on August 1st, 2017. Increase 370, 7110, 200, 5190, $241,197 spray park recirculation expense. Increase 3,750, 50, 3,100, 5190, $241,197. Transfer from general fund, which is revenue. Increase 100, 9901, 905, $241,197. Transfer to capital expense, and increase 1,060, 4795, $241,197 fund balance revenue.
We have a motion?
So moved.
Questions? And we believe that this was mostly a typographical error with two numbers that were switched. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Ossining hereby authorizes the supervisor to sign a revised agreement with Commercial Instruments and Alarm Systems, Inc. of Fishkill, New York, for a commercial fire alarm system and ongoing monitoring services for the Cedar Lane Arts Center, subject to approval by council to the town as to form.
Do we have a motion?
Second.
So just as a reminder, this was something that was required by our building inspector to be implemented, and we've been working hard and want to thank our council, Christy Tomadonna, as well as our water superintendent, Andy Teese, for all their work to try to get this contract in place with the alarm company. I think we're finally at a place where we feel comfortable moving forward. So, any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention?
There is no correspondence to be received and filed. Monthly reports. Resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Ossining hereby accepts the following monthly reports for the month of July 2017. Town Clerk's Office, Town Building Department, Town Supervisor's Office, and the Town Tax Receiver's Office.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
That completes your resolutions. We'll move into visitor recognition. Is there anyone who's come to address the board? Not seeing anyone. May I have a motion for an adjournment to work session?
Do you have a motion? Yeah. If anybody, before we go into our work session, just to go back to visitor recognition, if anybody has anything that they want to discuss, since we are going to be discussing McCarthy Drive in our work session, as you know, and the work session does not have a public comment portion of it, if there's anything that anybody wants to speak about now, this would be the time, because you can discuss anything at all. So if you want to address the board on this issue, feel free. Thank you.
Excuse me. Robert Katz, 12 Incognito Lane. My house is at the end of Incognito Lane on the cul-de-sac. So the back of the house faces the dirt part of McCarthy Drive, just to put it in the context. The easement goes down the side of my house, cutting into Incognito Lane. There are two issues that really have to be considered when you do that, neither of which stops you from doing anything, one which directly affects me and one which directly affects the town. The issue that affects me is drainage. About $50,000 has been spent to solve the water problem that comes from McCarthy Drive into my backyard and into my house. Dry wells, piping, grading, ditches, foundation being dug out, etc. Because it's very wooded, I have reached a tentative agreement with Mother Nature, a very tenuous agreement with Mother Nature for the last 15 years or so. It's an engineering issue. The water table back there, I suspect, is very high. Once that's paved over, the trees are down, the bushes are down, etc., there is going to be a significant increase in the water flow. Also because it comes down on a slight grade into my backyard. It's nothing that an engineer can't deal with, but it's something that, if it's done, has to be taken into consideration and resolved, or my house is going to continue to get flooded as it did for many years. You know, why, what the reason is, I don't know. All I can tell you is it's not going to take much added water or snow piled up or whatever to recreate the problem. That's my concern. Concern for the town is different. When Incognito Lane was built, all the houses on both sides were built to order and mapped out, surveyed, etc. My house was the last piece of property, was just sitting there, and the Guzzies who built all the houses said, let's put up a house there and see if we can sell it on that one last piece of property, which they did. Turns out, however, that the property lines, which is not unusual when it's done like that, are not accurate. If you measure the property line, and one of the property line markers is still in, on one side, coming, I think on the even number side. You're the odd number side, Heinz? If you come down on the even side, which is away from the easement side, then everything on my property is where it's supposed to be. However, 5 years ago, property line was measured from the odd side. When you use that side as the starting point, my driveway is not on my property, which means that once an easement is put in, depending on what property line it's used, is going to affect the property lines on everybody on at least one side of Incognito Drive, and at least the first house on White Birch on the corner in the back. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a surveyor, I'm a lawyer. I can tell you that before you do that, to avoid a great deal of aggravation, you've got to bring in the title companies and the owners to resolve it. under color of law, it's a very basic principle of law school. It's the first thing you learn when you walk into the law school. You will be determining by putting in the easement and using whatever property lines you use what the standard is going to be as to where it's going to go, to the right or to the left. And that's going to increase geometrically as you move down the road, which, depending on how much it's affected, can be not a big deal or it can be very significant. But everybody on at least one side, if not on both sides, and their title companies have to be brought to the table, or we're going to have a big mess. Right now, every morning I get up, and when I pull my car out of my driveway, frankly, I don't know if I'm driving over my property or my neighbor's property, but nobody seems to care, so,
I was gonna say, hopefully you have nice neighbors.
yeah.
That's great. Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else? All right, then let's go back to adjourning to work session. We have a motion to adjourn into work session.
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so, we are next going to there's only one item on our agenda, which is McCarthy Drive. That's it, okay? And, I know many of you are here to hear about what our discussions were involved. There have been many questions over the years as to the ownership of this road. And of late, we've had even more questions maybe than before. I don't know, I can't say, but, we asked our council to review all of the records and to, give us, some kind of a recommendation as to if they believe that this is considered a public town road or not, and I'm going to turn it over to our council to give us a little synopsis of that recommendation or memo that they gave to the board.
Yeah, so we worked in connection with the highway department, the assessor's office, and also the mappers that the assessor's office uses, and we went through all of the recorded records, and it turns out that there was a foreclosure proceeding several years ago, and as a result, the town acquired a piece of property, and when the meets and bounds on that, the deed from that foreclosure were mapped out by the mapping company that the assessor uses, it was revealed that that McCarthy Drive is actually owned by the town, which is somewhat unique of a situation because generally what you see is that property is owned to the middle of the street line. However, here, the actual street itself, based upon what the mapping company mapped out using the meets and bounds in the foreclosure deed, is that the McCarthy Drive is owned by the town.
All right. So having that information, our next step was to determine a course of action. And we reached out to our highway superintendent, Michael O'Connor, and our consulting engineer, Dan Ciarcia, to look at what it would take to get the road up to town standards. And Mr. Ciarcia, would you like to come up and speak briefly about what you looked at? And how you evaluated what would need to be done to get the road up to town standards?
Evening. Obviously, we started by looking at available mapping, looked at the various sources through the county, through the town's GIS to sort of create an inventory of the existing infrastructure out there. What we observed was generally the road is paved up to about where it turns, and then there's an unpaved portion, which is the portion where the gentleman who spoke previously has the problem. We looked out there to see, what utilities we have. We learned that underground utilities there, telephone, cable, electrics, all underground. We have sewers, we have water, but we are lacking in drainage. So what we did was put together all we could find so we could lay out a conceptual drainage system to for the purpose of creating an estimate. It's not at a level for being designed, but to come up with a realistic estimate as to what the cost of upgrading the road. And then as we go down that path, we look at other things. For example, should the road get wider? What's the condition of the road? Can it simply be overlaid, or does it have to be milled down? Going to install curbing. We spoke with the village about the condition of the water distribution system, and it appears that replacing the water main is also, as we're sort of looking at this holistically, is another issue that warrants taking a look at and considering in the overall program to update the road. So that's what we had done.
All right, fantastic. Thank you very much. And as Mr. Ciarcia pointed out, we did find out that have had some water line issues there, and we know now that the water main is going to be recommended by our water superintendent to be replaced in 2019. So that is going to tie into the design for drainage and water line would probably go hand in hand, and would hopefully be able to be done concurrently. So now I would invite Mr. Paul Fraioli up to discuss a little bit more about his recommendations for how we could move forward to best address the needs of McCarthy, all of those plans in place.
Good evening, Supervisor and Town Council. That is correct. When we just decided to, when we started talking with Mr. Ciarcia and your Highway Superintendent about the rehabilitation of McCarthy Drive, we, yeah, I'm going to do that now. Thank you. How's that?
That's getting better.
Again, good evening. When we sat down with the highway superintendent and your town engineer consultant, we mentioned to them at that time that if they were going to embark on a McCarthy Drive reconstruction project to bring that road up to the appropriate standards, that it would behoove all of us involved to reconstruct the water mains that are in that area. The water main that was put on McCarthy Drive was put there in the late 60s or early 70s. It was just some quick record checking I did prior to coming down here in advance of all the houses that were built there, or the majority of the houses that were built there, I should say. And it's been compromised over the years, really based on how it was installed and the lack of infrastructure that's in that installation, namely drainage. It's a very, the breaks that have happened over the years, in excess of 25 breaks in the last 20 years, which is, a couple a year, which more than 2 a year, which is a lot, considered a lot and extraordinary. A lot of that has to do with a lot of the wet soils and the lack of drainage to take the groundwater and the surface water in that area and appropriately collect it, retain it, and then discharge it to a receiving stream somewhere downstream of the system. That would be the main component of the project that Mr. Ciarcia referenced. But in that the entire road was going to get ripped up, this is the opportunistic time to replace the water main and put in the appropriate infrastructure for the village's distribution system. And we talked at that time we would get the economy of scale if we incorporated the water main component into a collective contract document that we would put out to bid. So we are going to approach our board for the approval to incorporate that into your construction project.
So again, that's approach the village board,
Yeah,
because this would
yes.
come out of the water
Fund,
water
right,
fund,
right, which is controlled by the village board. And at that time, we would also express to them that although the rough schedule right now is a design document next year, that's going to be part of your capital plan, and we would put it into ours as well, because there's going to be a design component that we would also look to offset on your behalf. And construction in 2019, if for whatever reason that was advanced, we would look to advance the water component as well to stay on track with your schedule. So it could possibly be late 2018. It was something that we would be discussing during this year's capital budget discussions, which take place in October and November in the village.
So just laying out and just clearly, if you could just go back for the board to just lay out sort of how this would phase in 2017, 18, 19, what that would look like.
So right now,
Everybody good? Everybody good? Okay. Good. Yes? Okay. All right, fantastic.
okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so, well, you want to just stay up here for a second, in case anybody, are there any questions for Mr. Fraioli, Mr. O'Connor, Mr. Ciarcia, about, what needs to be done, or some of the that one statement that came up before about the drainage issues on Incognito? Is that something that would all, sort of be part and parcel?
I think the gentleman raised some very valid points, and points that we've even discussed ourselves prior to him mentioning them here. And it's way too early to discuss specifics because we really haven't even went down the road of a design. However, that's all good stuff to know, and we would encourage comments like that. But we're going to vet all of those issues for drainage, as well as the installation of a new water main, and then any of the other grading issues that come along with that road and their interface in the right-of-way with all the adjoining private properties. So I don't want anybody to have a concern that anything is going to be done short-sighted. Everything's going to be vetted, and everybody's going to be approached, and everything's going to be properly designed in conjunction with what your corporation counsel has told us is legal.
Okay, so just to allay fears, while you're doing the work and while you're installing the water mains and doing everything else, there will be drainage, proper drainage in place so that the properties surrounding the work won't be affected.
There's going to be appropriate measures taking place during construction,
Right.
with the end result being the appropriate
drain.
measures for
Right.
a better and properly constructed road for the residents.
Okay.
Right, and I think due consideration to everybody's driveways and how we would deal with all the sorts of things and mailboxes and all the things that are on the road right now. There's utilities are all underground. I know the question came up. I don't know if we're gonna get into it at some point, that there's no gas service there. It's possible Con Ed might be interested in putting gas service there. If, residents are interested, that might be something that could help us and help the residents, in terms of, I don't know, I don't really know 100%. I know that with the school district, I certainly know that Con Ed helped out. I'm not sure if that's something that they chipped in for before when they laid gas lines.
That would all be included. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I think that's really a pro forma decision on their part, and we really can't say whether or not they're going to do that or not.
Well, now it might be the time to ask them, since they're ripping up every road we've got, maybe they will, maybe they want to play nice. I mean, we're very happy that they're doing it because they are giving us new pipes. So, with the good comes the bad, but I'm just saying.
I mean, I am curious, since we have residents here, just by a show of hands, if it were an option, how many people would be interested in having an option of gas? Is that any double homes, or that's four separate homes? Okay, just out of curiosity. Okay.
Well, again, we discussed it, and
Okay,
it is
fine.
going to be part of our action plan.
I'm just curious.
No, I know, I'm just curious, and we can pull the block also, certainly, find out. Mr. O'Connor, did you want to come on up? Actually, no, you cannot comment, but you can definitely submit comments, because I just was asking for a show of hands, but, we can take comments at another meeting. Go ahead.
Madam Supervisor and Board, I did reach out to Con Edison. I had a very positive conversation with them. They would consider it. I asked if we can make the gesture as the town, and the first blush of this thing, Con Edison employee that I talked to that does these for planning hookups said that we would have to notify all of the residents and have them individually. Maybe we can give them the person's name and phone number and everything else, and just how to do this, and reach out to them, and then they will consider whether or not they have enough that warrants the installation of the gas line. So it's a possibility. It was a positive phone call that I had and talked with this gentleman, and I think it'll be possible if enough residents were to say yes, agreed that they would hook up to the gas line if it came out. So I think that is really moving forward as a strong possibility of including in this project.
Wonderful.
And just the other thing too, on the drainage, we have possibilities of maybe not using that easement through into Incognito, but another one, which I have yet to bring up to our engineers because it wasn't really a factor at this time,
as we were just trying to calculate the cost of what the project would be. But there is something there that I could point out to our engineers, and they can take that into consideration, because we have another drainage problem in an adjacent area that we can possibly go through and then correct the problem that's there with this hookup. But that's something for them to say yay or nay on, but I think it's something that we can also look at.
Great.
So it's safe to say we're looking at the whole area and trying to improve the drainage.
Yes, it's the drainage in that area, as indicated by the speakers, has been a problem.
Questions? I mean, I feel like,
Here with the
Yeah.
engineers,
right, so is there consensus, then I think that the next step would be to develop
The next step would be for the village interim manager to go to the village board and ask them about their water fund.
Sure. We're
So-
definitely gonna find out about the water fund.
Until that
and then-
happens.
Then we would also be looking for, a company to come up with some kind of a proposal, is that right? So we'd have to,
Ultimately, you're gonna do the road, whether we do the water main or not, I believe, right? We are gonna present to our board that it is short-sighted not to take the advantage and get the economy of scale of you doing the project and us doing the water main. So, it is likely that we're gonna replace the water main in that area at the appropriate time, which is when you guys embark on your project, which is the bulk of the work, because we wanna take advantage of that. With regard to next steps, I think all three of the representatives here this evening have agreed that no matter what direction we go and what schedule we follow, that it would not hurt us if you guys considered the release of the survey work, because that's a prerequisite to anything we're discussing. And even if that has to be expanded down the road, the baseline survey that you received a proposal for already is something that we can consider for award at an upcoming resolution at a legislative meeting, now that we've had this discussion. And then that baseline material can be used to further any avenue that you follow to get the work done, whether we're including water, not including water. So that is one thing you can do. But in the big picture, we also discussed that we're going to take a lot of this baseline work and solicit a proposal under professional services from a civil site engineering firm to develop contract bid documents for the complete project from turnkey, taking all this baseline material and creating biddable documents to put onto the street for public bidding by general civil site contractors. We've talked a little bit about a potential budget for that, but it might be a little premature now to start throwing numbers around, but it's something that is bondable. It's not something that you're going to take out of your operating budget.
a big number. Big number.
I'm gonna leave it alone.
I hate big numbers.
It's a project that's been
I know it's needed.
needed to
Doesn't
be
mean I have to
done,
like big numbers.
and
Do we know all in without, and I know it has to be bid, I know it has to go through design, I know it has to all, but is this like an Albany Post Road number?
I believe.
All in? If it's all in?
Yeah, I believe the Albany Post Road number was in excess of $1 million, and I think this certainly would be in excess of $1 million, because we really, it shouldn't be sold short. We are not overlaying the road. We are reconstructing the road.
it was 3,000, how long is the road approximately?
2,000.
Yeah,
2,000.
about 2,000 linear feet, yeah.
You know, given that the drainage issues extend the whole length of the road, I know on, my neighbors, I'm on Nola Drive, on our side of the road, and I don't know about the other side. It would make sense to do as comprehensive and thorough job as possible.
I can tell you a collateral benefit to just the drainage work alone, because we were all involved in the work that the town undertook on Cedar Lane, right, which is on the west side, I guess, if you will, of McCarthy Drive. A lot of the Cedar Lane work necessitated by the lack of drainage, tension, and retention up on McCarthy Drive, and all that watershed basically just discharged down into Cedar Lane, and there was no measures down there to handle that. So we built that drainage in that where the little belly of Cedar Lane, and we resolved a lot of their downstream issues, but the water's still coming down the hill, so.
It does sound to me, especially because I know how much the superintendent of water very much has been working, and with you have been working on all the leaks and cleaning up leaks and cleaning up breaks and, just doing everything that you can to mitigate any damage so that there's not water just leaking, considering we all pay for it. So, hopefully, considering the whole concept of one water system and being able to support that, this, will happen in the vein of that. But, when we start talking about all this, I had a feeling that we were talking about significant number.
Yes.
Yeah, the ROI for the water component itself is probably less than 20 years, which is always something to shoot for, because that's less than a bonded amount, and, that's definitely worth doing.
So again, we have some consensus, and probably the next thing we'll do is put survey work on to get approved, and we do have a proposal for that. I hadn't brought it forth yet because I wanted the board to have a discussion about this in work session. Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for all the work on this, and neighbors, thank you for coming out. We will have more discussions on this at our regular meetings, and we certainly encourage anybody who has anything that you do want us to consider as we go to, please send us an email if you'd like. You're welcome to give us a call at my office, 762-6001, and make sure that we share it with the board and anybody else that needs any engineering companies at that time. Okay? Thank you. Okay, so now I'd like a motion to enter executive session for advice of counsel and personnel.
To adjourn into executive?
Adjourn into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone, and I just want to remind you that the town board will not be meeting next week. We will see you.
Guys, we're still
Meeting, so
we're
just
still on camera.
We'll see you next on Tuesday, August 22nd, right here for a regular meeting at the town board. In the meantime, I hope everyone continues to enjoy the summer and the great events that we have going on through our town over the next few weeks. I hope to see everyone this Friday night with their dancing shoes at Engle Park at 7 p.m. for a DJ dance party with Austin's own DJ Catch One, Hopeton Lemon, who will be spinning the tunes and partying with us until the sun goes down. Until then, have a great week, everybody.